Is the Yzerplan finally working in MoTown? The Blackhawks continue to show signs of life. Ovie inches closer to 900, and the Mammoth are on a roll. All that on this edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hey, hockey fans, welcome to Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA. I knew I was going to do that one of these times. Thanks for making Locked On NHL Game Night your place to get a recap of the night in the NHL during the regular season and the playoffs. We are available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Eddie Garcia, an LA Kings fan on the West Coast, also the host of Locked On LA Kings, which I almost said in the beginning. He is Shukri Wrights, a Boston Bruins fan on the East Coast. Together, we're here to tell you about all the goals, saves, big moments, and stories from the night in the NHL with a big assist from some of our local experts. Shu, just 4 games tonight, but we had some interesting games to talk about.
Oh, we do. And we have a lot of interesting headlines to get into. And not only just that, you may notice I'm pretty fiery tonight for good reason, but 4 interesting games. But man, Detroit, you're up. You're up to hit first. Let's go.
We start with our game of the night in Hockey Town as the Red Wings were hosting the Lightning on Star Wars night in Detroit. You a big Star Wars fan, Shu?
May the force be with you.
Well, the force was strong with Detroit captain Dylan Larkin as he scores the overtime game winner in a 2-1 win for the Red Wings. Let's check in with one of our local experts, the host of Locked On Detroit Red Wings. He is Brian Fisher.
Detroit Red Wings continue to roll as now they have beaten the Tampa Bay Lightning 2-1 in overtime on home ice. Now opening the season 4-1 to start the year. And it was 2 periods of really suffocating hockey by Detroit, really not allowing Tampa Bay to get any energy, any offense. Up 1-0 thanks to an Axel Sandin Pellikka first career goal with the assist from captain Dylan Larkin. But then in the third period, Tampa Bay turned it on. They brought that third period surge that a lot of people have come to see. And then John Gibson just shut him down. Tampa Bay did ultimately tie the game, but Captain Dylan Larkin in overtime got them the win. But John Gibson, goals saved above expected by the end of this game of 3.17. Fantastic bounce-back performance for his first win as a Detroit Red Wing.
And thanks to Brian Fisher for that report, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Detroit Red Wings. 4 wins in a row for the Red Wings as Dylan Larkin, as I mentioned, scores on a breakaway in overtime. 3-on-3, whether you like it or not, it can be very exciting. A shot from Victor Hedman goes wide. The rebound comes all the way back down the other way. Larkin wins the race and puts home his 10th career overtime game winner. He is only 2 away from Sergei Fedorov for the most overtime game-winning goals in franchise history. It's some pretty good company. But Brian talked about it. John Gibson had a really rough debut for Detroit. Comes back strong, though, in this one to get his first win as a Red Wing.
You didn't have to travel 8 miles to have a bounce-back story, did you? John Gibson said no. And clearly, in this game, this was a game of redemption of all sorts. Well, one, John Gibson, hell of a game tonight. Number 2, Dylan Larkin. I mean, my gosh. You want to talk about a game having 2 games wrapped up in one? This was that game in which that it was as if like you saw the Red Wings being completely in charge. You had literally a goalie steal a game for the Red Wings in this one, and like it was just amazing to watch as this game was basically like unfolding. That the Red Wings made it a point where they were not going to allow themselves to beat themselves in this game, and they didn't. Like you can't complain about really much of anything in terms of like how the Red Wings play on the Red Wing side of things, and that is for the fact that defensively they defended well. I really thought that if anything else, that this was a well played game in terms of the all four lines, forechecking, goaltending, timely saves. You got it all, and I think that like one of the things that was also like interesting of note was the Lightning. They did play without Nikita Kucherov in this game. He was a late scratch due to illness, but nonetheless, it was still a really well played game, both offensively but especially on the defensive side of the puck as well.
Yeah, John Gibson turning aside 31 of 32 shots. He allowed 5 goals on 13 shots in his Wings debut. Hadn't played since, so nice comeback effort from him. Obviously, not having Nikita Kucherov was a factor for Tampa Bay, former Hart Trophy winner, 3-time scoring champ. Their only goal came from defenseman J.J. Mosier. Andre Vasilevsky allowed 2 goals on 31 shots. But Tampa Bay now 1-2-2 on the season. A lot of people are picking the Bolts to be a Stanley Cup favorite this season. And, we can always say it's early, and it is, but this is not the start many of us expected to see from Tampa Bay.
Not at all, especially with the team and the organization having the ilk and the experience that the Lightning have. It is a bit surprising to see them like 1-2-2. It is early. I mean, we still got 77 games left, but the start is concerning. And if anything, John Cooper, despite the fact that, again, this was a really great game between both teams tonight, he still has to be like thinking to himself, like, what answers can I come up with to solve as to why is it that this team has struggled somewhat out of the gate? I mean, and they certainly have. But what I think also stands out to me is that it wasn't as if the Lightning didn't have opportunities in this game. Because if you remember, the Lightning, they had a 3-on-2 break in overtime, but Guntel, he had a cross slot pass, skip over the stick of Victor Hedman and bounce off the backboards. And then the puck didn't shot past Brandon Hagel, which left Larkin behind the original breakdown in order to control it, and then he eventually scored. So it's like a combination of lack of it's not lack of skill. The skill is there, but bad puck luck, dare I say, in that, especially in that sequence. But man, if you're the Lightning, you're searching for answers as to like how can you find that charge, no pun intended, to get things going in Tampa Bay, because at times they have looked a little sluggish in these first 5 games of the regular season.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's hitting the panic button yet in Tampa Bay, but certainly not the start that we thought. But for Detroit, new coach in Jeff Blashill, not a lot of people were excited about that hire, but he's got this team starting off very well now, 4-1 on the season, as we mentioned, 4 straight wins for the Red Wings, and they're hungry for playoff hockey in Hockeytown. It has been a long time, and people starting to question former Red Wing star Steve Yzerman, now the GM. Is the Yzerplan ever going to bear fruit? It's a good start. There's a long way to go, but I think you can understand the excitement of hockey fans in Detroit, because it has been a while since they've experienced some playoff hockey, and things look like they're certainly moving in the right direction at this point.
And certainly, and just real quick, Tom McClellan became the new head coach in Detroit, and
I'm sorry, Tom McClellan. Jeff Blashill's in Chicago. Good. My bad.
That's why I'm here to back you up. I got you. Don't worry about
Appreciate it.
Oh, of course. But in terms of Tom McClellan, though, I think since he publicly called out the players that one night where he he basically said, when is enough enough? You've seen this team play with a bit more fire under their collective ass, if you will. Like, if anything else, I think that Tom McClellan and his bluntness and his message from opening night has certainly helped turn around. You've seen a different Blackhawks team playing with a lot more confidence, with a lot more intensity, and it doesn't matter whether if they're playing ahead with a 2-goal lead or if they're playing in a 1-goal type of game. You're seeing that this Lightning team, especially with Dylan Larkin and some of the veteran players on this team, Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond, as well, Moritz Seider, who is one of the best young defensemen in the league. They're all playing with a little bit of an extra chippiness regardless of who the opponent is. And I think that is a welcome sight to see if you're a Red Wings fan, especially for a team that has hopes of getting back to the playoffs.
Yeah, fun to see what's going on in Detroit right now. Did somebody mention Jeff Blashill? Chicago Blackhawks taking on the Vancouver Canucks. We will talk about that one. Another close game for Chicago. That's next here on Locked On NHL Game Night. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for early season games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprising fees, and prices that jump up right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your favorite team. That's when Gametime can come in handy. It's the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I love when you see exactly what you're paying for. There's no hidden fees at checkout. Plus, I could see exactly what my view looks like before I buy the tickets with their in-seat app view feature. Their zone deals are game changers. You pick your section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. You can even find NHL tickets for under $25. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. All right, Jeff Blashill. He's the coach of the Chicago Blackhawks as they were hosting the Vancouver Canucks on Stan Mikita bobblehead night in Chicago. Shu, you a fan of the bobbleheads? Like bobbleheads?
I do. I actually love it. Yeah.
Got my Luke Robitaille.
Especially if Hockey
right
Hall of
here.
Famers at that. Especially if Hall of
There you go.
Famers.
Hall of Famer Luke Robitaille right here. I like it. We had some controversy in this one between the Blackhawks and the Canucks. This one going down to the wire. We had a 2-2 game late, about 5 minutes left, and it looked like Tyler Bertuzzi gave Chicago the lead. However, the referee quickly and emphatically waved off the goal, said that Bertuzzi pushed goalie Kevin Lankinen's pad and the puck over the goal line. They reviewed it. Actually, it was challenged by Chicago, Jeff Blashill. The call was upheld on the ice, and because of that, Vancouver got a power play, though Chicago did kill it off. They actually killed off 2 big power plays late in this one. They forced overtime, and then in the shootout, Brock Besser with the game winner for the Canucks in a 3-2 victory. But Shu, let's go back to that call. Could have been the game-winning goal for Chicago. What did you think about that goal for Tyler Bertuzzi being waved off?
I mean, that was rough. That was rough. There's no other way to put it except that when you go back and you watch the replay, you're just like, yo, you talk about an ill-opportune time to have that goal like wiped out. And at one point, listen, in terms of the game itself, I thought that Tyler Bertuzzi played a pretty good game overall. But however, in that moment, it was as if like a bit of the momentum was shifted away from the Blackhawks over to the Canucks in this game. And was it controversial? Yeah, I didn't like the call. Like just from an overall like hockey like standpoint. I mean, this is one of those moves where like one of those like those calls where like should you have called it? Yeah, based on a letter of the law, sure, but was it enough for you to say, hey, we got to negate that altogether? Like, that's a whole different like question in itself. But ultimately, what I looked at is how did the Blackhawks respond, and that in itself is what it boils down to. And like, unfortunately, the Blackhawks did not have much of an answer in overtime and as well as in the shootout. But man, like that was such a tough call, and as well as a momentum changer for the Blackhawks in this one against the Canucks.
I'll give the referee credit. He called it immediately and forcefully. He was not in doubt over what he thought he saw. I didn't think it was the right call. I thought the puck was loose underneath his pad.
It was.
And it wasn't like he pushed the pad into the puck and then it went over the goal line. He got the puck and it just pushed it in. It wasn't covered. It was loose under the pad to me. So I didn't like the call. And I thought Jeff Blashill, I'm going to say his name again, I thought that was the right call to challenge that and take the risk, even though if it doesn't go your way. And usually they say, the call has to be completely blown to overturn the call on the ice.
Yeah.
So I can understand why they upheld it, but I thought it should have been a good goal, and I thought the challenge from Blashill was the right call to make, even giving your opponent a power play in a tie game late in the third period. But Chicago was able to kill it off. But Vancouver gets the win. Kevin Lankinen, the number 2 goaltender for Vancouver, allowed 2 goals on 33 shots in regulation and overtime, stopped all 4 shooters he saw in the shootout as well. So a nice victory without question for Vancouver. They're now 3-2 on the season. But with all due respect to the Canucks, do want to kind of focus on Chicago because they're now 2-2 on the season, but all 4 of their losses have been 1-goal games. And I know I say this all the time. I don't believe in moral victories in professional sports.
Yeah.
It's a cut and dry business. It's about winning. That having been said, when you're a Chicago team that's been absolutely awful over the last few years and you're looking for any signs of life, this team is battling. They're battling night in and night out, and they're, playing very, very respectful hockey. So I think, in a sports town like Chicago, I mean, look, as a fan, the very least you can expect is I'm going to pay my money. I'm going to spend my time going to the rink, waiting in traffic. I want to at least see my team giving it an honest effort. And I think the Blackhawks have been giving it that effort each and every night so far.
Oh, they have 100%. And that's part of the reason why, like, even in my analysis, like with the Blackhawks, like I wasn't harsh with, because the effort was there. But the only thing like left for the Blackhawks to do is learning how to win in these tight games, in these 1-goal games. And as you mentioned it, like the 4 1-goal games, like if you're going to take that next step as a team, as a young core that's learning how to win in the NHL, you have to win those games, because those points, you think that early season, oh yeah, it's not going to matter. But when you start playing meaningful games in late March, early April, before the Stanley Cup playoffs, those points are going to matter. They could very well be the difference between you making the playoffs and you missing the playoffs. So I think as part of the process of this young core of the Blackhawks learning how to win these type of games and not leave points on the table, because ultimately it is going to matter come late March and early April when you're playing meaningful games to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs.
All right. We've got plenty more to come, including the Great 8 moving closer to a ridiculous milestone. That is next here on Locked On NHL Game Night. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to bet across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, we've got 2 more games to go. We'll start in the nation's capital here in the U.S. as the Capitals were hosting the Wild. The Caps wearing their Screaming Eagle red third jerseys for the first time this season. Big night of offense for Washington, including a certain player that you might know. Convincing 5-1 win for the Caps over the Wild. Let's get a report and check in with one of our local experts. He is the host of Locked On Washington Capitals, Dan Holme.
The Minnesota Wild by a score of 5-1. Hi, this is Dan Holme of Locked On Capitals. Well, it finally happened. Alex Ovechkin scores his first goal of the season. That is number 898. Hopefully a sign of things to come. As far as the team is concerned, a nice team victory. It wasn't just the first 2 lines getting contributions. Actually, lines 3 and 4 played a big role, and that's huge for the Capitals as Pierre-Luc Dubois is out due to injury. And the Capitals PK, they did a good job containing some of the Minnesota Wild's big guns, and that was a key contributor. As far as the offense, the Capitals greatly outshot the Minnesota Wild, and they made good on a lot of opportunities. As far as the power play is concerned, it leaves a bit to be desired. They did score one power play goal, but still a work in progress. I'll have much more on this for you later on Locked On Caps.
All right, we thank Dan Holme for that report. Ovechkin with the first goal of the season, as you heard. Dylan Strome had 2 goals and 2 assists. Logan Thompson allowed 1 goal on just 15 shots in net, as Dan talked about the Wild being very much outshot in this one. But Ovechkin gets his first goal, as I mentioned. He's now 2 away from 900 goals, which is ridiculous. This was a rocket shot right off a face-off, off the post and in, unstoppable. 900 goals. That's insane to think somebody put 900 goals up in this league.
I mean, it really is. And the more that you say it out loud, Eddie, you can say it again. He's 2 away from 900
goals. Yeah.
900 goals. It doesn't, the mind can't comprehend it. You can't make sense of it. Like, how? I mean, we barely was able to like make sense of what we saw the afternoon that Ovechkin broke Wayne Gretzky's all-time NHL goal-scoring mark, and now he's literally on the doorstep of 900. It's just still unbelievable to think, as 2 grown men, that we grew up watching Ovie from the time when he first came into the league. 20 years in, it's about to hit 900 goals, in which that once upon a time, this was, and I said this back in the spring when it happened, that this was one of the rare records in sports that was truly inconceivable to think that one day it could possibly be broken, let alone shattered. And here we are. But in terms of Ovie's goal tonight, I think it was part of a much bigger effort, like from the Capitals, in terms of just dominating in this game against the Minnesota Wild, in which that I thought that overall that there was one positive in regards to like the Wild, like Marcus Johansson scoring, but outside of that, like there really wasn't much to celebrate if you're the Wild. But as far as Ovie and his teammates are concerned, I mean, this was like this was certainly something that, if you're the Capitals, you're looking forward to seeing Ovie finally heat up after scoring his first goal of the season, where most people were wondering, like, hey, what's going on with Ovie? Like, are you starting to fall off a little bit? But he's finally on the tally sheet, and that's what matters.
And this was billed as a battle of Russian stars. Of course, we talked about Ovechkin. Kirill Kaprizov from Minnesota, quiet in this one, did not have a point. Let's check in and get the story on the losing side of this with the host of Locked On Minnesota Wild, and that's Seth Topol.
Minnesota Wild were offensive in the nation's capitals. They lose 5-1. Hey, everybody, Seth Topol, host of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, recapping a 5-1 loss by the Minnesota Wild at the hands of the Washington Capitals. This was a brutal game. The Wilds were held in check to the tune of 15 shots on goal the entire night. They had large stretches of play in which they were incapable of generating any offense, going the first period and a half with just 4 shots on goal. The lone goal tonight, Marcus Johansson against his former team. But as the losses start to pile up in the same manner, we wonder, where is the 5-on-5 scoring going to come from? For more on the Minnesota Wild, make sure you follow along with Locked On Wild wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And thanks to Seth Topol for that report. The Wild power play has been unstoppable pretty much so far this season, although it was stopped against Washington. They were over 2, but they were at 47% coming into this game. So the power play is red hot, but as Seth alluded to, 5-on-5 scoring is just not there. So if they're not getting power play opportunities, they're not scoring, and that was the case in this one. And good job by the Capitals, not only of killing off those 2 penalties, but also staying out of the box as well in this one. Also, goaltender Philip Gustafsson, he had a shutout on opening night. He's now allowed 17 goals in 3 games. So, I don't know what's going on with him. Normally a very reliable goaltender, but it's an interesting start for Minnesota with what's going on with the power play, it couldn't be much better, but they need to get some 5-on-5 scoring going as well.
You know, at one point, the Wild, they scored 9 consecutive goals, all on the power play, by the way. And Eddie, this hasn't been done since 1933-34. We're talking about something that power play. Oh, cook it like you're cooking a good filet mignon steak on a skillet. 5-on-5, you're colder than dry ice. You're getting nothing on even strength. And at one point, I was like, man, it would be great to see Matt Boldy score a goal here, or Marcus Johansson. Oh, that's right, Marcus Johansson scored the lone goal on 5-on-5, which broke the 9 consecutive goal streak, all scored on the power play. But man, something's awry in the Twin Cities when it comes to the Wild scoring on 5-on-5, and I can't seem to put my finger on it. Which to me, I don't get it. Yes, Matt Boldy, he had his goal streak in that 4 consecutive games, but he did have a point via the assist to extend his point streak to five straight games. But man, it is absolutely puzzling as to what you're seeing from the Minnesota Wild. And I just wonder if Dean Everson is asking and wondering himself, hey, 5-on-5, is this something that we're going to have to practice more and practice in order to find new ways to generate more offense on even strength? Because this can't go on for a much longer duration of the regular season, because this is concerning.
Capitals off to a nice 4-1 start. Minnesota drops to 2-3. One more game to get to. That was in Utah with the Mammoth hosting the Sharks. Utah, 4 unanswered goals to close out a 6-3 win. Let's get some details on this one from one of the local experts, one of the hosts of Locked On Utah Mammoth, and that's Robin Leno.
The Utah Mammoth offense has awoken. We've been challenging Utah all week to get more of their scoring chances in high danger areas, and they certainly delivered with their 6-3 win over the San Jose Sharks. Hats off to Nick Schmaltz, by the way, who registered his 2nd career hat trick. And a Mammoth welcome back to Spicy Tuna Liam O'Brien, who capitalizes off an open net opportunity. What we can all hope for is for Utah to keep up their offensive pace through this homestand and beyond. We know this team has the offensive talent. It didn't show until tonight, but just maybe, but this game was the confidence boost that they needed to give them back that competitive edge that we've been expecting since the season began.
All right, thanks to Robin Leno for that report. 4-point nights for both Nick Schmaltz, who had the hat trick, and Clayton Keller, who had a goal and 3 assists. Kirill Vemilka, 3 goals allowed on 21 shots in net. Speaking of in net, the adventures for Sharks goalies continue. The spicy tuna reference was mentioned by Robin.
Yeah.
Let's get the, I don't know if it's going to be too spicy for our guy in San Jose, but let's get the other side of this from our guy, the host of Locked On San Jose Sharks. It is JD Young.
Start at another goalie miscue costs the San Jose Sharks. I'm JD Young of Locked On Sharks, and the Sharks lose 6-3 to the Utah Mammoth. The Sharks could not get out of the gate. Utah absolutely dominated the first period, but credit to the Sharks, who found their game in the second period. But as we've seen all throughout this young season, a goalie miscue by Askarov gets the Utah Mammoth up 3-2, and then they just kind of take off from there. The Sharks team continues to not be able to get out of its own way, with miscue after miscue leading to goals in the back of their own net. Michael Celebrini did have his first goal this season and also had an assist, so that was positive, but the Sharks continue to be the only team in the NHL who has yet to win a game. We'll have more on your next episode of Locked On Sharks, wherever you get podcasts. And, of course, you can watch on YouTube as well.
Thanks to JD Young for that report. I don't know what's going on with the goaltenders in San Jose, but we saw Alex Nedeljkovic had that comedy of errors and loss to Vancouver. And now Yaroslav Askarov goes behind his net to play the puck, just misplays it. And Liam O'Brien, Spicy Tuna, was there to put it in. That would be the game-winning goal, although Utah did add some goals on at the end. But, you're the Sharks. You're trying to move in the right direction. There's some things there to be excited about, but you just can't hurt yourself like that. They need to get these goalie goofs cleaned up, obviously.
I mean, they make for great bloopers in the NHL.
Good highlights, yeah. Good highlights.
Yeah, like seriously. But no, like it's amazing to think that you don't expect to see this from an NHL team, let alone an NHL like goaltending tandem. But if there's a team that's going to happen to, that's going to be the San Jose Sharks. I mean, this is no disrespect to the Sharks organization at all, but man, that's now twice within a couple of weeks that you see two epic goaltending gaffes. This one, you can't even explain like what the heck you even saw. I can't even explain like what the heck I even saw and what he was even thinking. Like, I'm sure this has got to be one of the things that drives goaltending coaches mad. When you leave your crease and you can't handle the puck outside your crease, which leads to opposing teams scoring chances being there for the taking. Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it. And of course, that being the backbreaker for the San Jose Sharks tonight. But the Utah Mammoth, on the other hand, listen, there were two players in particular who I thought were absolutely huge. I mean, obviously Nick Schmaltz with the hat trick and assist, he had a 4-point night. But not to be forgotten in this equation too is Clayton Keller, who had a 4-point night himself as well. He had a goal and 3 assists for the Mammoth in the win as well. So on the Shark side, please stop fumbling the puck and leading to scoring opportunities for opposing teams. And for the Mammoth, this is a huge sign of what is to come. And if you remember, I want to remind people throughout the season, Eddie, I called it that the Utah Mammoth were going to be my dark horse team in the Western Conference this upcoming season. And so far, the young core hasn't proved me wrong.
Utah now 3-2 on the season, as you heard JD Young mention. San Jose, the only team in the NHL not to win a game, 0-2-2 now on the season. Hey, if you want complete coverage of your favorite NHL team, there is a Locked On NHL Team podcast and YouTube show for you, because we have one in almost every NHL city and town. Still working on New Jersey and Calgary, but we're working on it. And this show, Locked On NHL Game Night, is here for you each and every night of the regular season playoffs, wrapping up the night in the NHL. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this show if you're watching on YouTube, and we want to see your thoughts on tonight's games in the comments section as well. That'll do it for this episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. For Shukri Wrights, I'm Eddie Garcia. Thanks for listening and watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.